I call this meeting of the Hurst-Euless-Bedford Independent School District to order, that the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. Board Secretary Julie Cole's not with us this evening. She's on a business trip, so we wish her safe travels. And we are ready to get started with an invocation. Tonight it'll be by Board Member Chris Brown.
Thank you, Matt. Let us pray. Dear Lord, thank you for allowing us to gather tonight as a community to carry out the work of this wonderful school district. We thank you for the beginning of the school year. This time of year is cherished and held dear by so many people who gather tonight. We thank you for the students, the parents, the families, our staff, and our teachers, and we pray that you give them and all of us guidance, direction, clarity, and wisdom throughout the entire school year. Please keep us safe and reunite us with our families at the end of each day. Thank you for your abundant love and care for us. Amen.
Okay,
Thank you, Chris.
Follow me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor
The Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Mr. Brown and Mr. Cargile. Tonight, the Board of Trustees is meeting in its regularly scheduled monthly meeting to officially act on the items included in the posted agenda. The Board welcomes and appreciates comments and input from the community. Open forum is provided at each meeting to allow the public to address the Board. There will be two open forums tonight. Open forum number 1 is to hear requests regarding agenda items only. Open forum number 2 is to hear requests or make comments regarding non-agenda items and will be heard at the end of the meeting. Those addressing the Board are asked to limit their comments to 3 minutes per meeting. The speaker should identify his or her name, group affiliation, if any, and make a brief presentation with an identified solution if one is sought. Remarks should be addressed to the Board as a whole. Oral presentations may not include charges against any employee or board member by name. It is my responsibility to determine if the person addressing the Board has attempted to resolve a concern informally or through the district's complaint policies. If not, the speaker will be directed to follow the appropriate policy. The Board requests that all presentations be made in a courteous, respectful, and professional manner and asks that all speakers monitor their own behavior. If you wish to speak during one of the open forums, please fill out one of the cards located on the table in the entry hall. All right, superintendent's comments?
I would love to comment on our scores and our accountability, but Mr. Schroeder is going to be presenting that, and I think if I start talking about it now, there won't be anything left for his presentation. Just to say that we were very excited. The only other thing I will comment, I want to thank our safety officer, Dan Phillips, who on the first day of school had worked with all of our cities to arrange for extra police presence. And I think with the events of this past year, that really helped our families feel a lot better about coming back to school, and really appreciated all 3 cities having a big presence that first day.
Any clarifications?
Everything's included in the Friday update. The only thing I did put in your packet tonight, we had a question on enrollment, so your enrollment numbers are there. We're about 199 students off of our projected numbers, so we're looking at 22,772 students. So we feel good about our enrollment numbers.
All right, thank you. Next, we will review the board activity chart. I'll start with Mr. Campos.
The beginning of the school year is always very exciting because lots of activities. There's only 3 things I want to mention. First off, I just want to say, Deanne and your team, convocation was awesome. Every year I think we can't do it better, and every year you guys continue to impress me. Your team, everything, yourself, Mr. Romero, was fantastic. Only thing I want to comment about was I lingered on before I got to my car, and I found a group of brand new teachers, and they were like, oh my God, this is the most amazing thing ever. So I got to hear it firsthand from some of our new teachers, and just very good job on convocation. Number 2, first time in like 18 years I haven't don't have a kid on elementary campus, so I got to attend the parent night for my youngest, who's now attending Harvard Junior High. Hats off to our principals and our staff there, really good. It was kind of interesting to see it from a middle school perspective, having been in elementary for so long. And then the last thing is I am now back doing Trojan Talk. I'm very excited about that. Took that off for a couple years and very excited to be back at Trinity.
Did the Six Stones Back to School event, which was amazing. We always want to thank Six Stones for all they do for our kids, but it was great. It was a very hot day, but boy, the kids were just so excited. You could tell they wanted their backpacks and they were ready to start school, and it was very heartwarming. Convocation, I'll echo what Mr. Campos said. It was amazing. I heard nothing but good things. And same, I lingered in the lobby for a long time after and talked to teachers, and it was really, really, really energetic and just spirited, and it was amazing. I haven't visited schools yet, so principals, be sure to invite me, but I did stop by Spring Garden, Oakwood Terrace, and Trinity High School to sprinkle some donations. And just from the ladies in the office, asking them how the first week of school was, everybody seems to be on a really good start, happy to be back, kind of a more normal feel, so I'm just really excited to start visiting schools.
I just want to add one thing. Every year, as a board, we try to get together with the three cities, Hurst-Euless-Bedford, and we just this last week had our annual meeting, but we haven't had it in the last 2 years because of COVID concerns. So it was great to get everybody together again. We had city council members from all three cities. I think we had 2 out of 3 mayors who were able to make it. We had all the city managers. We also had a great participation from the HEB Hospital and also TCC. So we had some great conversation. You know, these are the meetings that events that you guys know about, of like HEB Reads came out of this meeting, and our EMT program over the Buinger came out of this meeting. So we get some great community programs out of these meetings. So it's great to finally get back to it and have that meeting again. All right, we are ready for our presentation of the 2022-2023 Student Ambassadors. Ms. Hollander.
Good evening. This is always one of my favorite meetings because you get to see firsthand our students, and we get to tell you a little bit about them. I want to say that they have started out already. They were at Convocation, and they were celebrating and welcoming our staff. So what I'd like to do right now is let Mariana Royer, I want to pause and take a privilege of just telling you that this program would not be what it is without Mariana. And she has several people that help her. She's going to tell a little bit about them. But what we want to do is just introduce them to you real quick, tell you a little bit about them, and then you will see them the rest of the year. So, Mariana.
Good evening. I'm Mariana Royer. I work in our PR and marketing department, and I'm privileged to be over the Student Ambassador program. This year, board, we have 20 student ambassadors. We have some returning students, but we also have some new people on the Student Ambassador leadership team. Ms. Elaine Vaughn retired, and we have Mr. Michael Pena, who's joined our team as well. So he is here bringing a lot of creativity, and we're ready to think about other things we could add in addition to the rest of the PR and marketing staff that helps me, and I'm grateful to be here. Like I said, we have 20 kids, and I will do my very best to go as fast as I can. So our first student ambassador is Ian Baez-Matos. He's a junior at Trinity. He participates and is the librarian for the Trinity Choir. He's part of the Harmony Choir and is an IB student. Jonathan Bazouk is a senior at LD Bell. He's a member and brass captain at the Bell Band, participates in full orchestra, has taken the Mandarin Chinese for the whole 5 years, NHS vice president, and a member of the Mu Alpha Theta Interact and CAS Club. Grant Bernhard is a junior at Trinity. He's a Buinger ambassador, a Bell Library helper. He is in the BCTA Honors Robotics team and a piano teacher. Jackson Boswell is a senior at LD Bell, and he is an IB student. He's the catcher of the LD Bell baseball team, a member of the National Honor Society, and the founder of a test prep program at Bell. Matthew Boyd is a junior at Trinity. He's an IB student, member of the National Honor Society, is an officer in the Trinity Band, and is on the cross-country team. Ryan Corrier is a senior at Bell, and she's a second-year student ambassador. She's the section violin section leader for the Bell Symphony Orchestra, part of the NHS Council, Executive Council, and part of the Interact, Mu Alpha Theta, and is the founder of the Human Rights Advocacy Club at Bell. Julie Eiserman is a junior at Bell, and she's a member of the HUSA and the Bell soccer team. She's also in the pole vault team and is a member of the NHS and the librarian for the LD Bell Orchestra. Emery Elliott is the LD Bell Library yearbook editor, junior class council member, student council, JWAC, and National Honor Society member. Jaira Hill is a senior at Trinity. She's a member of the Trinity Gymnastics team, VP of Mu Alpha Theta, VP for for our Elders Club, member of NHS, Interact, and the Future Medical Professionals Club. Jana Jang is a senior at Trinity and is an IB student, the president of the Trinity Student Council, member of the Junior World Affairs Council, Asian Club, NHS Class Council, GAP, and Letter for Our Elders. Ethan Kellenberger is a senior at Trinity. He's a second-year ambassador, member of the Future Medical Professionals and National Technical Honor Society, and is the captain of the varsity Grapevine Colleyville hockey team. Paloma Magana is a senior at Trinity. She's a second-year student ambassador, an IB student, president of the Trinity's Junior World Affairs Council, PR director of the Spanish Honor Society, participates in the Trinity Choir Band, and a member of the National Honor Society and Mu Alpha Theta. Seth Moala is a senior at Trinity. He's a second-year student ambassador, participates in the Chick-fil-A Leader Academy, and the member of the Trinity Varsity Choir, National Honor Society, and the Math Honor Society. Luke Ramcharita is a senior at Trinity, president of the Trinity Social Studies Honor Society. He's a Barbara Bush Foundation mentor reader, a member of the HEB Model UN, research officer, a member of the Honor Society and JWAC, and a youth leader at his church. Giselle Ransom is a junior at Bell, president of the Bell's Model UN, and is the Student Council's parliamentarian, member of the Bell's Environmental Science Club and National Honor Society. She's also part of the JV tennis team and a member of the Texas YMCA Model UN. Carlos Robles, known as Paul, he's the second-year student ambassador, vice president of the Chick-fil-A Leader Academy, officer of the Bell's National Honor Society, member of the Bell's varsity track and field and soccer team, and captain of the varsity cross-country team, and is the Mu Alpha Theta, and is a church production at his church. Samart Sarda is a senior at Bell, participates in the LD Bell Orchestra, member of the National Honor Society, Interact Club, CAS Club, and Mu Alpha Theta, and is the treasurer of his DFW Hindu Temple Youth Group. Sabrina Sharitha is a senior at Trinity, director of events for both Trinity Spanish Honor Society and Interact Club, and is a member of the Student Council, Letters for Our Elders Club, Asian Club, and National and Science Honor Society. Brooklyn Strudinsky is a senior at Bell. She's a second-year student ambassador and is in the IB program, president of the Bell Student Council, member of the Senior Class Council, Mu Alpha Theta, and National Honor Society. And Claire Wu is a senior at Trinity. She's a second-year ambassador, president of the National Arts Honor Society, and is the social media head for the Trinity Letters for Our Elders Club. They're busy. So we are so excited to be able to share with you our 2022-2023 student ambassadors for this year.
While they're setting up for this picture, I just wanted to say real quick, this program was the brainchild of our former board president, Ms. Ellen Jones, but that's all it was an idea. And when we handed it off to Ms. Royer, Ms. Hollander, this great program evolved, and we are so proud of this program and of these students. All right, thank you, ambassadors. So at this time, the board will hand out certificates of appreciation for those who have made donations in the previous month. And, okay. And thank you, parents. All right, and the donations will be read by Board Vice President Rochelle Ross.
Tonight's total donations are $8,080, and we always like to say, without our community partners, we couldn't do everything we need to do in public education, so thanks to everyone who is helping out our schools. The first certificate will be handed out by Board Member Fred Campos to the Rotary Club of Hurst-Euless-Bedford, to PR Marketing. It's a $1,000 donation that will go towards the Better Together Employee Appreciation Program. Ms. Hollander will accept the certificate. Oh, and Kimberly Ball is here, too, as a representative. Thank you, Kimberly. The next certificate is also by Board Member Mr. Campos. The Allstate Foundation to Hurst Hills Elementary School, a $500 donation will go towards the purchase of supplies for the students of Hurst Hills. And Ms. Donahoe, their principal, is here. The next certificate will be presented by Board Member Don Jordan Wells to Hurst Junior High School, from Hurst Junior High School PTA to Hurst Junior High School. It is a $900 donation that will go towards folding chairs for student events. Mr. Smith, their principal, is here to accept. Okay, are Kimberly and Deborah, they're the PTA? PTA. Deborah and Kimberly, thank you all so much. Ms. Jordan Wells will also hand out the next certificate from Six Stones to Hurst Junior High in the amount of $2,380, which will go towards paying for Liga soccer referees. And Mr. Jones is here to accept, and Mr. Smith. The next certificate will be handed out by Board Member Andy Cargile from Clayton Crane to the Buinger CTE Academy. It is a $2,300 donation for medical equipment, which will help train in the Buinger CTE Academy students. And Ms. Harvey, their principal, is here. The next certificate will be handed out by Board Member Chris Brown from Marjorie A. Jackson to Child Nutrition Services, a $1,000 donation which will go towards paying down any student IOUs in the school cafeteria. And Dobie Williams will accept.
All right, and thank you for all those donations. They help the school district and the individual schools be able to do things that we just couldn't do otherwise. So those donations are very appreciated. All right, we're ready for open forum number 1. No? Okay. All right, we do not need closed session. All right, so we are ready for a consent agenda. Does any board member have anything they'd like to remove from the consent agenda? Hearing none, I'll accept a motion.
I move that the board approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the board to approve the consent agenda as presented. Please vote. Okay. It's just slow. Okay, you need us to do a hand vote? All right, all those in favor? All those opposed? The motion passes. All right, we are ready for reports and presentations. We're going to start with the PTA Council President update. Ms. Peary. Welcome.
Thank you. So I just want to say thank you so much to the Board of Trustees for allowing us to be able to come and brag about our wonderful PTA. For those that you don't know me, my name is Heather Peary, and I am the Council President this year for HEB ISD Council of PTAs. I have my entourage here. We have our other council members here as well as my family. I have been the president, this is my first year as president, but this is my 11th year serving on a PTA board. So we are not new to HEB ISD. Last year was a record year for membership with PTA across the state, but really in our district. We had a record number with over 6,000 members. And it doesn't seem like a lot when you have 22,000 kids, but that was a lot for us, especially coming off of a COVID year. Our goal this year is to beat that. We have high goals. And one of the things that we like to promote is that successful students are everyone's business in this community, and successful schools build successful communities. Everyone can back the future of our students, whether you're a parent, a teacher, a student, a community member, families of HEB alumni, business owners, and taxpayers can all back the future of our students. We had, like I said, we had over 6,000 members, and an email will be going out, hopefully soon, to all HEB staff and families in the community. Thanks to the support of Dr. Harrington, we did get full backing this year from the district to support our PTA membership. So we are looking forward to that. Unfortunately, the joinpta.org site crashed the first week of August, and they haven't gotten it back up and running yet. But our locals have really figured out ways, pivot, I guess is the right word, to come together to still get the membership going. So I don't have current membership numbers because our state doesn't have those at the moment, but we're working on it. So, and with that, we have brought back the Back the Future campaign that Crystal Sadler started 3 years ago. And I will say that the first year we did it, we had about 5 people join, and then we had 10 or 12. Last year we had 23. So our goal this year is for many more people to join, and there's different levels, and we already have some people in the room that have joined, so we appreciate that. So if anybody would like to join at a higher level, the gold level would be joining all the PTAs in the district. We have 28. And then if you're a Trinity person, there's the Trinity feeder schools, there's the Bell feeder schools, and depending on if you live in Hurst-Euless-Bedford, there's also those as well. So if you are interested in joining at a higher level than just an individual school, please contact Crystal. She has the forms with her tonight. Probably one of the things that I'm most excited to talk about, though, is our clothes closet. This has been a labor of love between the school district and the Council of PTAs for the last 35 years. And we just discovered that this week while cleaning out the clothes closet, doing renovations. So our clothes closet is currently closed this week because we had an amazing person in the district in maintenance who came in and toured the facility because we had asked for a little bit of help on things, and he's like, oh, we're going to just overhaul the whole thing. So they did say we needed to wait till after school started. So they're in this week painting and putting in new carpet and fixing holes in the walls and replacing some things. So we're super excited about that. But I would like to announce that in celebration of our 35 years, on October 1st, we're going to have an open house ribbon cutting celebration of the clothes closet. So your save the dates are coming. We just confirmed that this weekend. But just so that for those that don't know what the clothes closet does, we do provide gently used clothing, new underwear, socks, and shoes to children in our district. They get referred to by the nurse or a counselor. And last year, our clothes closet serviced 525 students. 212 of those shopped twice in the school year, and we gave away over 20,000 items. By August 20th of 2021, we had served 38 students. So far this school year, by August 20th, we've already served 110 students and given out over 3,200 items. Yes. Yes. We've been working this summer too. But I will say on a personal note, there was a lot of, and this was, I think, I have to say from a community effort, mainly because there were several posts on the neighborhood Facebook pages of schools about to start. I don't have it, I just adopted my nephew, and so we reached out, communicated, found out what schools they were going to, and our new clothes closet coordinator, Sarah Valentino, very quickly got them in and got them taken care of before the first day of school. And we even had a student who was coming in the first day, and this was like 2 days before school started, didn't even have school supplies. So we were able to help with that as well. So he was able to start school on the first day and have everything that he needed. Our mission this year, though, is to serve even more students. With having over 22,000 students in our district, we know that there's a need that's not being met for whatever reason. So our goal is to really work with the community, work with the school district, find better ways to communicate that we exist and that we're here to help. And so that is one of our big goals for this year. So I could go on about how amazing our PTA is, because I'm a little biased, but I do want to share things that you guys may not know. Texas PTA has one of the largest conferences in the nation. And while we were at our last conference, I met a woman who, when I introduced myself, she's like, "Oh, I'm from Oklahoma." And I'm like, "Okay, that seems odd." She said, "Yes, I joined a junior high in Plano so that I could attend this conference because I wanted to learn more so I could be better for our school district." And I thought that really resonated with how great our PTA is in Texas. And I also was told that there was a delegation from California as well to learn how their conference could be bigger and better, because ours is the best in the nation. So that is one of the things that I think is very valuable to understand. One of the things is our district, so there's 67 councils in the state of Texas, and I would have to say that HEB is probably in the top 5. When I went to Lone Star Conference in June, they gave out awards, and there was only 2 districts that had 1 or 2 maybe more awards than we did. So that was a huge shout out to the previous councils from the year before, because it's not just one person, it's our whole board, and it's the locals, and it's the district that give us those awards. So we were really excited about that. And then for those that don't know what PTA does, I just want to say what we're not. We are not bake sale moms, and we don't get together and put together classroom parties. Our members advocate at the state capitol on behalf of public education. We fight for STAR testing, we fight for vaping laws, anti-bullying laws, school safety, and most important, funding for our district. Numbers speak volume when talking to legislators. This year is a legislative year. Please help us have the highest membership numbers ever in an effort to bring positive and effective change. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Did any board members have any questions for the PTA?
Heather, just for public record, what does the clothes closet need? If anybody in the public wanted to donate, what's the number one? Number 1 or number 2 or number 5?
The Probably the greatest need right now is socks, underwear, and shoes, because those are things that we typically have to purchase. So anytime that we can save the funds for the clothes closet for other things, those are the most important things. On the Facebook page, there is we do post an Amazon wish list, and all items purchased go straight to the clothes closet. I do know that right now we are having a shortage of children clothing, so size 4T to 18, 20. Adult clothing we've got plenty of for the high school kids, but the younger kids, we're kind of struggling right now. And so we have been pushing that and asking for people that have the younger kids to help donate some of those clothing. You're welcome.
You guys put in a lot of hours. I know you do. So thank you for all you do, because we do notice, and we know how hard you guys are working to help advocate for everything that our kids need. So thank you for all the hours you guys put in.
Yeah, thank you, PTA. It's a vital part of our district. So. All right. Any questions on employments, resignations, and retirements?
I just have a little data to share with you
Okay.
on where we are on our vacancies. So we currently have 25 teacher vacancies. That number's gone up a little bit since I last reported that to you. 13 of those are in elementary, 12 are in secondary. I do want to make a correction to some data that I shared with you on the Friday update. Actually, 12 of the long-term subs of the 25 vacancies, we have 12 long-term subs filling those who are currently working on certification requirements. We do have 7 who are filled by general subs. And when I say a general sub, what I mean is either a long-term sub has not yet been secured, or in some cases, we have individuals who might have we have had a few resignations, someone who might have just resigned, and so we've just let the subsystem fill that for the time being. We do have 6 of our current vacancies that are unfilled, but I also want to point out a couple of those, actually several of those, are from new pre-K classrooms that we've opened. And so, for example, we just reorged 2 of our existing teacher units into pre-K teacher units. Those have not had a chance to be filled yet, so that gives you a little bit of insight there. I do want to point out, Mr. Cargill, I know, asked me a few weeks ago about SPED, and so of the 25 vacancies that we currently have, 10 are SPED teacher vacancies. I also want to let you know we do have 19.5 teacher assistant vacancies. We have not filled a lot of those with subs yet. Our sub office and Mrs. Benavidez have been sending out about 2 to 3 times a week, kind of some all-call emails letting folks know what specific teacher assistant positions we have that we're needing help in. And just a reminder to you that we increased our teacher assistant sub rate this year, and then we also added additional money for SPED. And of those 19.5 teacher assistant vacancies, 11 are for special ed. Yes.
Do we still offset some costs if they go back to school? At one time, we paid them some of their money to go back to school. Are we still doing that?
So, we used to have a teacher assistant to teacher program. Is that what you're referring to? That is something that we've been looking at for the future. That is not something we're currently doing. At the time, it was only to target some specific areas, so it was a really small population of folks that it impacted, and we've been looking at ways to maybe expand that in the future, but we are not currently doing that. Also, we have 41 custodial vacancies. We have 3 grounds vacancies as of today, 38 child nutrition, and 7 bus driver. And then I also want to give you an update on our student workers, because I know several of you have been excited about that. As I told you previously, our Extended Day Academy is always, I say always, for multiple years, three to 4 years in a row, they've been employing some student workers. But the push this year really helped increase their student workers. So I'm happy to report from Mary Ann that 60 high school students applied. 45 were interviewed, and 39 have been recommended to hire, which is definitely higher than our previous usage of students in that program. Our custodial student workers update from July to present, we've had 31 students apply, 8 have responded to the request for an interview, and of those 8, there have been 3 recommended, 2 have accepted. And then I want to let you know, we have to really make sure that our communication is what it fits the audience. And so one of the things that Mr. James and Mrs. Benavides are working on this week actually is some text communication to these folks, because many of them don't have their voicemails set up by design and or don't respond and or voicemails are full. So we are going to continue to reach out because they did express an interest at some point in applying, and we want to make sure that they understand the need to come in for that interview. So we are continuing to address all of these openings. As you are aware, and we haven't had too many of these, but if a teacher is asked to fill in a classroom that it does not have a substitute, as you'll recall, we did add in our supplemental duty pay this year, instead of it being a COVID stipend, a permanent item that does give them the opportunity to get compensated at a higher rate than previously for that. And we have had a few of those submitted, but we will continue. We're onboarding a whole new batch of substitutes this week, and we will continue to look for those specialized subs for some of these positions. Any questions? Yes, Fred?
Cicely, so if a long-term sub that's getting certified, do they traditionally stay in the same classroom that they're currently in? Or how does that work?
So we have some folks who are in sub roles who are looking to become certified, but sometimes a little bit of an obstacle is that before you can get that letter of eligibility, you have to have been offered a position. And so sometimes that can be a little bit of an obstacle, but I will tell you, we've actually already this year hired multiple subs who have moved into permanent roles for us. And we're continuing, one thing I failed to mention, we have already hired 6 retirees. We're continuing to do requests for that. I know that's something Dr. Harrington will again mention at our staff meeting tomorrow. And then I'll just give you a little teaser. One of the things that Dr. Harrington and Human Resources have been working on, and we are really in the preliminary stages, but our goal is that by about into November at the latest, we'd like to be able to offer some letters of intent to some of our current student teachers and even to some student teachers who are not with us but that are from universities where we have partnerships, in hopes that come January we can fill some of these vacancies and go ahead and snatch those folks who are quality. And we've already had a couple universities who've reached out and given us their like A-list, so we're really excited about that as well. Mm-hmm. That's right. Yes, yes. Any other questions?
Any questions from the board? Thank you, Cicely. Any questions on disbursements for the month of July 2022? All right. PK playground status, Mr. Minor.
Good evening, board. So, as you know, I've done before, is I like to tell you where we came from so we know where we are, to know where we're going to be going. In 1995, the district had replaced all the playground equipment across the district, and so everything we have is from that era. And just also to understand the playgrounds that we're talking about, if it's 18 inches or above, you'll have a fall zone, and so all playgrounds then are numbered, so it's a 1 through 4, essentially 1-year-old to 4-year-olds, and that's what they're designed for. And then from 5 to 12-year-old, that would be from the rest of the playgrounds. And throughout our district, that's what we have in all of our playgrounds. Even on the new schools, we have 5 through 12s. Now, there's 2 other schools that do have pre-K playground equipment. That would be 18 inches above and has the fall zone. That's going to be Veridian and Wilshire Elementary. Now, the reason I make that distinction between the 2 is also at Spring Garden and at Meadow Creek. We do have play areas for pre-K, and it's a contained area, but you're talking about maybe like little tyke stuff, little cabin, plastic stuff, things like that. So that wouldn't fall into the pre-K, the large playgrounds that we're also talking about. Now, seeing this need coming, we anticipated this a few years ago, or not a few, but a number of years ago. And many of those, you know, that Shay Stanfield that was here, she and I started talking about where where it was going, what the anticipation of that would be. So on our new buildings, we may not have the pre-K, but we had a spot that we held in the plans on the drawings to say if we were to move forward or something was to come up, this is the location that we'd be putting that in. And the reason for that was to try to either separate the different play areas, not knowing what time, and I'm trying to look in a crystal ball, trying to predict what's that going to look like and what's the school and numbers and things like that. So we had those separated on the plans and had that ready. Moving forward, we'd like to be able to have that discussion and see what direction we would go. Now all those schools have pre-K programs. And when we started that thought, there was not that many. They were starting to trickle into the district. So if you'd like, we would be prepared to bring something to you in at the facility board meeting to discuss that in more detail if you'd like.
All right, thank you. Any questions?
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right, district accountability, Mr. Streeter.
Thank you, Board. I drew the right straw tonight. Dr. Harrington, I'm very proud of you. Thank you, sir. It's not often I get to come up here and share all the great news, but before I begin, I really want to emphasize something that Heather said and our PTA. The accountability, well, yes, that's our students working hard, our teachers doing amazing work over the last few years, but it really is a community effort. The support the board gave us the last 2 years, the work that our community trusted us to do, the PTA support, and so many other organizations. So I do want to say thank you, because we wouldn't have gotten to where we are without the help of everyone. And that's a very genuine statement that I know Dr. Harrington also reflects and believes. Let me tell you what this report is not before we jump into it. I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty of accountability. It takes a PhD probably in statistics and multiple foreign languages to completely understand. But with that note, later this week on the Friday update, I'll send you a brief one-pager with some great handouts if you really want to dig into and understand the numbers. However, I caution you, in about 30 to 60 days, TA is going to do us a favor and change some things around again. So be cautious as to how much you study, because it's going to change. So with that said, I really want to share the great news. This is district numbers. Last week in our Friday update, we sent to you the campus-by-campus information, so you have those specifics in front of you. So let's dive in, and I will say Gail and Holly were instrumental in helping us gather these numbers and presenting some of this information, so thank you to both of them. Just a reminder, we want to achieve highest academic rating for our district, and we want 100% of our campuses to earn all applicable distinctions, and the district will earn all applicable distinctions as defined by the state accountability system. A quick context and a reminder that in both 20 and 21, all districts and campuses received a not rated rating due to the COVID. And then for this reason, 2019 is our most recent comparison year. And so that's what we'll go back to. And so let's just look at what we have. So if you look at the 2019 graph, we had 4 campuses that earned a rating of C, 8 that received an earning of A, and 16 Bs for 2019. And now if you look for 2022, we have no Cs, we have 9 Bs and 20 As. And remember, Arbor Creek was added since 2019, so we have 1 additional campus from the 2019 data. So that's worthy of a clap. That's principals and teachers working really, really hard and managing our curriculum the way we have set it out. And then we know that you love your arrows, ups and downs, so we wanted to share those. Thank you, Holly. And so if you look at for academic achievement in 2019, that's both math and reading, and that's at meets or above level. We had 84% of our students, and then obviously we all know that in 21, all districts across the state took a pretty significant dip. And so that was a difference of 29%. And then when you look at student success in all subjects at approaches or above, we had 83% in 2019 and 49% in 2021. Now, let's compare that to where we are today. So if you look to the far right, you can see from 21 to 22, we rose by 35%. And from, for math and reading and for all subjects, we went from 49% to 90%, 41% of growth. That's amazing. That's amazing. And I really mean that. It's not because we're here in HEB. That's just a lot of work on a lot of people. And that's our kids showing grit. That's something that's really important to teach in school today. And then I know that we always like to kind of see how we stacked up. And so I want to be clear that these districts are districts that we choose to compare ourselves. This is not our comparable groups that we use all of our data against, but these are districts that we really like to see how they're doing. And so you can see HEBs in the dark green. And a couple of quick things I want to point out. Pearland was the only district to score higher than us in our comparison group. There were only 3 schools in Tarrant County that earned an A rating, and 2 of those are to our north and east, along with ourselves. But if you go to the 3rd column, one of the things I want you to take note is that post-secondary readiness, we are the only district to earn that distinction. That is a big deal. And then the last thing I want to point out to you, we took the actual raw numbers, and so if you look at that second to last column and look at our distinctions, we got 135 out of 176 distinctions, which is a 77%. No one's even close. And here's what I want to say. The goal should never be to chase distinctions. The goal should be to implement the curriculum, to make sure we're following our TEKS, and to really have great instruction. And by doing so, then you can get the distinctions. The way distinctions are calculated is very complex. You've got to be in the first quartile. It's compared to a number of different things with your actual comparison group, and you have to score 50% or better in multiple areas in order to do that. But the bottom line is it's really hard to get, and we did an amazing job, and our campuses should be really, really proud. The other thing that's important to note, not every campus necessarily got a distinction, but you can be an A, because it could be that your group that you're being compared to is so high that it's very difficult to move into that top quartile. So you can get an A and not have distinctions and still be incredibly proud of what you did, and we had lots of campuses that should be proud. And then, of course, we had this year a lot of campuses with a great deal of distinctions. So unbelievably proud of our kids in our district. Any questions? I get the best news of the week.
Any questions from the board?
All right, thank you for your time.
I don't have any questions. I really want the teachers in our district to stand up and be proud. And I think Dr. Harrington's message that went out in celebration was fantastic. But I really want the teachers to know we see what you did, and they worked hard, just like we asked them to do. And for all 5 of our junior highs to rank an A, think about that, junior high. And all
And
5
earn
of
all
our
7 distinctions.
and they got distinctions. Like, I think that is huge, that we're sending our students from junior high to high school already set up for success. And, you know, for me, Keys is a very special place. But when we got the Friday update that Friday night, and I was at dinner with some friends, I was telling Dr. Harrington, and I'm squealing in the restaurant because I saw, started to look at the scores. But I really want all campuses to be proud, but for Keys to earn an A, where these are the kids that over these 2.5 years of COVID that we could have lost to a dropout. I think it's amazing what they have done too to catch these extra kids. They just bundled them up and they took care of them. So really a special shout out to Keys, but I really want the teachers to stand up and be proud.
And I just want to add 2 brief things. One, the success of the junior highs is absolutely in relation to the work that they're doing at the elementary schools. Those kids don't magically come prepared, and then the junior highs take it to the next level. And you're absolutely right, Rochelle. That's, for junior high kids, amazing. And then the last thing I will say, and I have to brag for just a moment, there was nothing better when Friday came, and I don't know, maybe 9:30 or 10, all of a sudden my phone started ringing off the hooks from other people that we know. And the question is this: how? How did you do that? What was the difference? What are you all doing over there? I'm like, we'll never tell, no. But we were so unbelievably excited, but nothing compared to the people around us. And so that's just great leadership and you all letting us do the work that we do. So thank you for letting me share those results. Any other questions before
Is the state going to provide us the desegregated data this year? Is that?
have we done that in the past? I don't know. I'm not sure exactly. Like broken down by campus or broken down by student? What?
Broken down by student groups like they normally do. Yeah, because I know that we've set goals based off of different student groups and growth and stuff. So
Absolutely. So yeah.
I'd be interested to see where we are with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
closing gaps, yeah.
Okay, great. We'll get that for you.
right,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you.
All right, we are ready to talk budget. We're going to have our budget presentation for the 2022-2023 budget. Mr. Jones.
So we're going to be discussing the 2022-2023 proposed budget tonight. So as an introduction, the public meeting was called on August 8th. The notice was published on Thursday, August 11th. And the state law requires that we approve the general fund, the child nutrition fund, and the debt service fund. And then at local discretion, we've chosen to do the pre-K core knowledge fund as well. And then if approved, these will be considered the original budget in our annual audit. Okay, our schedule this year, we started our budget process on January 24th with all of our folks that were new to budgeting. And then for all of our campuses and departments, their budgets were due by February 25th. And then we held our board reviews in late May. The salary schedule was approved in June, which being 87% of our budget is payroll, that means a lot of it was approved right then. And the certified tax roll came in on July 21st. Okay. On August 8th, y'all accepted the certified tax roll and approved the notice for the public meeting, and then also set the public meeting for tonight. Okay. We'll start with the general fund. And this is our district operational budget. Primary revenue is from local property taxes and state funding. And then the revenue is determined by a state funding formula. The primary factors of that are enrollment and local property values. And then some secondary sources are just interest income, our athletics, some federal grants, and then just miscellaneous other places. Enrollment, as you can see, we projected a number of 22,971 for this year, and that was going to be up on there. As of Friday, we were at 22,772, which is 102 short of last year, 199 short of this projection. If we grow at the exact same rate as we did last year, we grew by 141 last year, so we wouldn't quite make it there, but hopefully we'll grow a little bit more this year. Okay. Property values, we're at $19,163,000,000. So on this graph, it has 10 years of history. In that 10 years, we've grown 113% in property values. And in 5 years, it's been 38% growth. Okay. The M&O tax rate that we're proposing tonight is 87.42 cents. As you can see, that's down from 93 cents last year and has been gradually coming down as the property values have been increasing. Okay. Local revenue, based on those 2022 values, we're expecting $156 million in local revenue. That's an increase of $4.4 million from last year. And then we're expecting $300,000 in interest. If interest rates keep going up, we could see more than that. So a total local revenue of $158 million for the year. And that's an increase of $4.4 million from last year, which is a 2.9% increase. On the flip side of that is our state revenue. We're expecting $40.6 million from the state this year, which is a decrease of $5.5 million. Of that, the transition grant is making up $7.8 million this year. And we're expecting our TRS on behalf estimates going up to about $10 million due to some increases in percentages there. And that one's an offset on both the revenue and expenditure side. So total state revenue is $50.6 million. Which is a decrease of $4.8 million from last year, or an 8.7% decrease. On our federal revenue and other sources, we're expecting $150,000 in indirect cost and $300,000 in SHARs. And this is a decrease of $1.6 million. We budgeted a lot of indirect costs from ESSER funds last year. As of right now, we haven't needed that. By the end of this year, we may pull that back in and use it in order not to pull as much out of the money that we've been setting aside from the transition grant. Some of our other sources, $5,000 from the sale of property and other things, $900,000 from transfers from just other funds, and then out of that transition grant money, $5.2 million, which would mean there would be a net going back into that account this year of $2.6 million. Hopefully, if we have more revenue coming in from other sources, we can reduce that number a little bit as well. Okay. This was last year. We were looking at 72.5% local, 26% state. If you move to this year, we go to 73.5 and 23% on the state side. So that other is that money coming in kind of made a little bit of a part of the pie now. And just another way of looking at it over the years as we've seen the local portion increase and the state portion decrease of our funding. So total revenues for 22-23 are $216 million, which is an increase of $3.2 million over last year's original budget. And then on the expenditure side, the only major change that has been made was the 3% raise. The budget that we brought to y'all in May, the only difference from that is going to be the transition grant changed a little bit due to the funding. The state and local revenue changed a little bit, the formula of that. And then the $400,000 that we had to add for the property insurance. Other than that, there's been no changes since May on the budget on there. On the expenditure side, we're looking at about a $208 million budget. This is an increase of $8.3 million over last year, which the majority of that's going to be from the 3% raise and then a couple of the few additional positions that were added over the summer. And then that's just an increase of $2.7 million from the current budget right now. As you can see, 87.2% of that is payroll, 5.6% is for professional and contracted services, 4.7% for supplies, and then a little bit for the operating costs and then capital outlay. Kind of by the functional category as we present it, instruction is making up $136 million of that budget. Instructional support is making up $31 million of it. Okay, so on the totals for the general fund budget, the revenue plus other resources is $216 million. The expenditures and other uses is also $216 million for a balanced budget. Okay. And then on the food service fund, this one's used for our breakfast and lunch program, and it's managed by the Child Nutrition Department. For this year, we're looking at revenue of $16,462,000 in local, which is a 3.3 million in local, which is $77,000 increase, and then $13 million in federal. This was kind of a guess on their part since the last 2 years, since the federal government's been covering it all. They didn't quite know what their numbers were going to look like this year, but this is the best guess they could make on that. So for the revenue, you're looking at 79.6% on federal and 20% local. Over the years, that's been pretty consistent. It's been consistently going a little bit less on local and a little bit more on federal each year. As you can see on 2021, with federal taking over the majority of it. And we'll see that again on 21-22 when we have our final numbers. On the expenditure side, they're looking at a budget of $21 million. This is an increase of $5 million over last year. And it's completely in capital expenses as they continue changing out serving lines and doing other capital projects of the cafeterias. So you're looking at 35% being spent in payroll for them, 37% in supplies, and then 23% of that's capital outlay. It is a deficit budget, but they are required to be down around 3 months operating. Right now, they're closer to 8, so they're trying to bring that down with that $5 million of expenses. So you're looking at expenditures exceeding revenue by $4.5 million. Their fund balance as of the beginning of this previous year was $6.3 million. They're going to be closer to about, I think, 7 or so this year. So that's the reason why they're needing to spend so much down. Our debt service fund is used to account for payments of principal, interest, and related fees for our general obligation bonds. This year's expenditures, we're budgeting $41.7 million. So $22 million of that is bond principal, $14 million of that is bond interest, and then the $5 million defeasance that was discussed at the last board meeting. So you're looking at about 53% of the money is for principal, 35% interest, and then 12% of that's the defeasement. The proposed tax rate for our INS tax rate this year is 0.2356, which would give us an expected collections of $40.9 million, and with additional revenues would bring us to that $41.7 million that was on the expenditure side as well. For the tax rate, that would put us at 1.1098, which is a decrease of 5.1 cents from 2021. And that's kind of your history of the tax rate for the last 10 years on there. So it'd be our lowest tax rate that we've had in 10 years. The Pre-K Core Knowledge Fund is a tuition-based full-day pre-K program with 6 classes this year, 2 at Viridian, 2 at Spring Garden, 1 at Meadow Creek, and 1 at Trinity Lakes. They have a revenue budget of $795,000, an expenditure budget of $750,000. So they're slowly but surely going to be able to get that $250,000 that we bailed them out with last year to get that paid back. Any questions about any of that?
Any questions on the budget?
I'd just like to say one thing. I sat up here last year and squawked about the budget, and I didn't like the amount of information that we were provided. I didn't like the transparency or the lack thereof on the departmental budgets that were non-payroll related on where this money was going. We had a 60-page budget report last year. This year, our budget report is over 300 pages. And if I'm going to sit up here and squawk, I also want to make sure that this year I give big kudos, Dobie, to you, and Joe, to you, because without your support in doing this, it would not have happened. You didn't try to fight it. It was we were working together and getting to a much better position. And I want to thank both of you so much because this looks so much better than it did last year. If you compare our budget now to any district around us or to the state, we have the most transparent budget as far as where our money is going. And I want to thank both of you gentlemen for doing that and for helping me and working with me and getting that done. It's not perfect. We've got other places that I think that we can improve, but let's not let perfect be the enemy of good, and this is really good. And thank you both. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Brown. Any other questions on the budget? I know we've all been looking at this since May, so. All right. So it's time for the public meeting. I declare this public meeting now open to hear comments concerning the presentation of the budget and proposed tax rate for 2022-2023. Is there anyone here who came to speak about the budget or the tax rate? All right, seeing no further discussion, I now close this public meeting. All right, we're going to move down to action items. There was nothing removed from the consent agenda. So 12.02, consider approval of resolution approving the 2021-2022 application for GASB 54. Were there any questions on this? I'll accept a motion.
I move that the board approve the resolution approving the 2021-2022 application of GASB 54 standards.
Second.
I have a motion and a second that the board approve the resolution approving the 2021-2022 application of GASB 54 standards. Please vote. And that motion passes. All right, consider approval of final 2021-2022 budget amendment request. Mr. Williams.
Okay. So as you know, at the end of the year, we've got to move some things around because we can't exceed in functions and do this and that. And plus the state now says if we go too far over on revenue, too far under on revenue, we can even get dinged on that. So we bring a final budget amendment for the general operating budget to you, and I'm just going to kind of hit the highlights. Of course, we've talked about the enrollment that was down this year, lower than what we projected. So on the revenue side, we're making some adjustments there. We're adjusting the state revenue down $2 million. Local revenues, which would basically be tax collections, that's up $2.5 million. And then federal revenues, we're adjusting that up $2.4 million, which is primarily due to SHARs and then the indirect costs that Stephen spoke of earlier. The other ones within those expenditure functions we're primarily just moving funds around to where there was budget left over to create our excess budget at the end. If you look down in other sources, There's one for 7,900 capital leases for 1.5 million. That one is a result of Gasb 87, a requirement. They want to, I'm trying to explain this as simple as I can. What they want to do is they want us to, like copier, we have a lot of copier leases, big money on copier leases. They want to see us report those in our accounting more like we would report a bond with principal and interest. So we are transferring that over and basically reporting those lease expenditures more like capital, bonded and debted expenditures is what that adjustment is for. And we'll be doing that probably every year unless we, it seems simpler for us when talking to Janice to do it that way rather than try to change and teach all the campus how to recode all that and redo all that. And we may do that at some point in the future, but for now, we're going to just do an amendment at the end of the year. And then the last one I want to talk about, which should make the board pretty happy, is with the excess of revenues over expenditures, which granted, a lot of this came from the ESSER transfers or reclassifications we talked about throughout the year. Some of it, unfortunately, just came from not having people in positions we needed, custodians and food service workers and whatnot. But we are proposing a $9.25 million transfer into the locally defined capital improvement fund. We did that last month. We did $3.2 million, I think. This is an additional $9.25 million we can put into that fund. The board controls that, which is what the Gasb 54 resolution you just did, that's what allows that. So that's for the general operating fund. That'll give us some money to work on, maybe some baseball bathrooms, stuff like that. And safety and security, yes. Absolutely. The other amendments are in the other funds. Let me get to those. The child nutrition. The child nutrition fund is, I'm not finding it right here. It's in here, buried in here somewhere. But it's primarily because we ended up feeding all the kids again last year, so we had to change where all that money came from and all those expenditures. That's what that budget amendment's for. The pre-K, CK budget amendment is basically due to a little bit of an increased enrollment in that program. And then, of course, there wasn't any debt service budget amendments for the year. So, well, I take that back. There was some on the revenue side. We changed local revenues because of tax collections a little bit, and then, of course, that adjusts the additional state aid for homestead exemption funding we get from the state. It drops that down. So that's what that one is. Any questions on that?
Any questions on these amendments? So when do the auditors show up? Like September, October, something like that?
They've already been here once. Okay. They'll be back.
I do have a money question. I've heard that the federal COVID money now can be used to hire teachers. Of course, that's not reoccurring, so I don't know why they would say that. But could that money, I'm not sure who I'm addressing this to, could that money be used for that 16% for those retiree hires?
We could. The ESSER 3 funds really don't have a lot of specifics. I say that if you're doing something to promote the student learning, student recovery, the ESSER 3 funds would allow that. We've got, the ESSER 3 right now, though, is fully budgeted.
Right.
But again, it's what Dobie is also, by how we're using those funds, some of those funds did generate some of that excess because we were able to take care of some of those needs through the ESSER. So while we don't always, while those funds may not be available right now because those funds may be spoken for, those funds may allow us to pay for that because it freed us up because it took care of a different cost. So at the end, we have 2 more years left in those, and that's what things we have been really working hard. is maximizing the use of those ESSER 3 funds and making sure that we're using them for student recovery and for student instruction. And I think we've done a really good job with that. But providing a teacher and a qualified teacher is a huge need. So whatever while that fund may be taken care of for this year, we could allot some of it next year, or some of the things that it frees up allows us to do that.
So the answer is, it is possible.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You wanted yes.
I was waiting for that college credit again.
All right, any other questions? I'll accept the motion.
I move that the board approve the final 2021-2022 budget transfers and amendment requests.
Second.
I have a motion and a second that the board approves the final 2021-2022 budget transfer and amendment request. Please vote. And that motion passes. All right, consider approval of adoption of the 2022-2023 budget. Mr. Williams?
Okay, right quick before we get to that, I would first like to say thank you to Stephen for all his hard work on the budget presentation, presenting to all the campus principals, their staff, department staffs, to HR. 87% of our budget is payroll, so kudos to HR. They do a lot more work on the budget than people realize in getting that put together. So my assistant, Robin, to Dr. Joe for the support and the support of the board. And following up on what Chris said, yes, we thank you for the questions. It just makes us all better. I mean, you ask questions, we answer them. Sometimes we find out things that we've just kind of let glaze over the years. So, thank you for the questions and thank you for the support of the board. So, with that, I would like to present to you the budgets that are required by the board: the general operating fund, the food service fund, the debt service fund. You saw the numbers presented by Stephen. In addition to that, the pre-K, CK budget.
Are there any questions on the budget? I will accept the motion.
I move that the board approve the 2022-2023 revenue expenditure budgets for the general fund, the food service fund, and the debt service fund as required by law, and the revenue and expenditure budget for CK Core Knowledge.
Second.
I have a motion and a second that the board approve the 2022-2023 revenue and expenditure budgets for the general fund, the food service fund, the debt service fund as required by law, and the revenue and expenditure budget for the pre-K Core Knowledge. Please vote. And that motion passes. All right. 12.05, consider approval to set the 2022-2023 tax rate, ordinance number 158. Mr. Williams?
Okay, along with an approved budget, we need a tax rate to support that for the general operating and for the debt service. As you know, child nutrition is a self-supporting budget in itself, so it doesn't have a tax rate. So what's presented to you in ordinance number 158 is a M&O tax rate of 0.8742. That's a 5.1% decrease from last year's rate. And then INS or debt service tax rate of 0.2356, same tax rate as last year. Total tax rate of 1.1098.
Are there any questions? I'll accept the motion.
I move that the property tax rate be increased by adopting the tax rate of $1.1098, which is effectively a 6.9% increase in the tax rate.
Second.
I have a motion and a second that the property tax be increased by the adoption of the tax rate of 1.1098, which is effectively a 6.96% increase in the tax rate. Please vote. And that motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Williams. Consider approval of update to 2022-2023 staffing table. Ms. Tuttle?
So we were able to, as you're aware, we were able to designate some teacher units into pre-K teacher units. However, when we are filling a new classroom for pre-K, we do need to add the assistants. And so we are coming to you tonight with a request for 4 pre-K teacher assistants. We're very excited that we have a reason to need to come to you with this request. Any questions?
Bring us the kids.
Any questions? I'll accept the motion.
I move that the board approve the new units as submitted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second that the board approve the new units as submitted. Please vote. And that motion passes. Consider approval of amended 2022-2023 salary schedules. Mr. Williams?
Okay, I get to present this because it obviously impacts the budget. But as you'll notice, Cicely is sitting close by right here. She was extremely instrumental in getting this all put together, so she'll have any details, and I think she might want to say a few words too. But as you know, we've had custodial shortages, child nutrition shortages. HR worked extremely hard, and in a very short frame of time, they researched, where are we compared to other districts and in the area that we compete against in these areas. So while we can't get to the point unless the state steps up to where we can compete with the Walmarts, the Sonics, and those places, we can compete with other school districts, and we think we've done that here. So what we're proposing is increasing our child nutrition and maintenance and operation schedules from their current rates to a rate of $15.50 per hour. This will also even out those two scales. You don't see very many districts where they're not on the same level pay scale, so this will get us kind of in line with what's best practice, kind of industry standard for those jobs. And what else do I need to say?
I'll add one comment. As we looked at this, as Dobie mentioned, we're not trying to compete with the industry, but when we looked at our rates back in November, because we do begin that work so early, we were comparable. And when we determined that we weren't, we wanted to act as swiftly as we could. And so really looking at all of the districts around us, seeing lots of them that are in the $14 or higher range, and then a few of them that were at 15 on the dot. And so we made the decision that while we're not trying to get into any kind of bidding war or anything like that, we needed to go ahead and start at $15.50, which would put us ahead of all of the districts in our area.
That's good. All right. Any questions on the amended salary schedule? I'll accept the motion.
I move that the board approve the amended 2022-2023 salary schedule.
Second.
I have a motion and a second that the board approve the amended 2022-2023 salary schedule. Please vote. And that motion passes. All right, consider approval of the amended 2022-2023 schedule for supplemental duty pay.
Okay, this is kind of the same song, second verse, just a different pay schedule. We're recommending an increase for extended day workers from $11.50 to $14. Also have started experiencing some issues with with those jobs. Extended day assistant manager from 15 to 16 per hour, and a Liga soccer stipend increase from 1,000 to 2,000. So, any additional questions? I'm sure Cicely could give you more detail on that as well. And I guess really what y'all want to hear from me on this is, can we afford to do this? Yes, we can. We will, we didn't change our existing budget that you just adopted because we'd already put, we'd put out notices and all that, and it would have skewed all those numbers. So what we may end up doing is coming back in September and doing an amendment to our budget to reflect these increases. But Stephen and I were talking about that today, and we may not really have to. We're just going to kind of look at it and see if we don't close the gap on some of those vacancies, then we're going to have excess, and we won't need to make an adjustment for this. So we're just going to kind of look at that, and we'll come back to you possibly at some point to amend our budget to absorb these into that budget, into the budget. So.
All right, any other questions on the supplemental duty pay? I'll accept the motion.
I move that the board approve the amended 2022-2023 schedule for supplemental duty pay.
Second.
I have a motion and a second that the board approve the amended 2022-2023 schedule for supplemental duty. Please vote. And that motion passes. Okay, 12.09, consider approval of the August 2022 donations for the September presentation of certificates of appreciation. Just to refresh everyone's memory, or if you haven't heard this, I asked that we start voting on these before the actual meeting so that we could present those certificates at the very beginning of our meetings. But what I've also asked now is that we vote on these during the work session instead of at the previous regular board meeting. So from now on, these will be voted on during the work session. That's immediately before the meeting where we pass out the certificates. But I guess the only difference would be when we have a combined work session, regular meeting, then we'll either have to put it above the agenda or we'll have to do it, the meeting before, the regular meeting before. We'll just have to discuss that. But this is just for certificates that have been received so far in August.
At least I know I'm not losing my mind because I'm like, this is different.
Yeah.
Trying something different. All right, so I'll accept the motion.
I move that the board approve the August 2022 donations for the September presentation of certificates of appreciation as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second that the board approve the August 2022 donations for the September presentation of certificates of appreciation as presented. Please vote. And that motion passes. All right, consider approval of progress learning for K through 6. Were there any questions on this? I'll accept the motion.
I move that the board approves the progress for learning for K through 6.
Second.
I have a motion and a second that the board approve the progress learning for K through 6. Please vote. That motion passes. Consider approval of remote homebound instruction waiver. Anything need to be said about this? All right, any questions on
If there's any questions, this is a waiver that we'll submit. If it's approved, it's for an individual student, and Renee can give any more details if there are any questions.
Renee, on average, how many students get this in a given year? How many students in a given year? Yeah, just ballpark. Just one? Okay,
Last year was an exception.
okay. That's it.
Just one teacher?
Just one teacher, one student, it's a student with sickle cell whose doctor wasn't home. So I'm at home.
We've had these for years.
All right, if there are no more questions, I'll accept the motion.
I move that the board approve the remote homebound instruction waiver.
Second.
I have a motion and a second that the board approve the remote homebound instruction waiver. Please vote. And Renee, just because we put in for the waiver doesn't mean that they're gonna get it, right? It's just, this just starts the application process? Okay. Well, hopefully they do. And that motion passes. All right, we're to open forum number 2. No cards, all right. Okay, we're going into other business. Opportunity for board members to request items be placed on future board agendas. If anybody has anything, I'd like to change how we do this just a little bit. I'd like to start with the item that you want to add to the future agenda and then go into the explanation. Just that we kind of stay more in line with the agenda and make sure that we're doing things in the right order. So does anybody have anything? All right, well, hearing none, we are ready to adjourn. No closed session.
So moved.
We are adjourned.
Thanks for staying the whole time, y'all, that's exciting.
You need an audience for your work, right?
Exactly. Well, the budget is so exciting.
How are you?
Alexis is like, I'm so bored. And I'm like, no. This is why